The 10 Most Beautiful Cities of the World. British painter Francis Bacon said that beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. The writer Émile Zola added that beauty depended on the state of mind and the moment of life in which it is contemplated. It is somewhat subjective to define which cities are beautiful and which are not. To avoid controversy, most travelers, in addition to their experience, take into account other factors such as the size of the city, its architecture, green areas, the heritage, the historical artistic set, and if they have a rich gastronomy of their own. Following those criteria, these would be the 10 most beautiful cities in the world for us. 1. Kyoto, Japan. Time seems to have frozen in Kyoto. This ancient capital of Japan mixes the charm of a classic city, where its inhabitants still wear kimono, with more modern neighborhoods. It is one among the few Japanese cities that wasn't bombed during the Second War, so its architecture and heritage remain virtually intact. Located on the island of Honshu, Kyoto is taken into account the cultural and film center of Japan. His university is additionally one among the foremost important in Japan, therefore the environment isn't lacking. 2. Dubrovnik, Croatia. It was one among the cities that suffered the foremost with the Balkan War, causing it to be heavily bombed. Despite the injuries, this European city has managed to recover the traditional beauty that characterizes it. Considered as the pearl of the Adriatic, this old city that stood out for its importance within the arts and sciences lies behind a wall. Inside it, we discover an ochre-colored city with a special atmosphere, which mixes tradition with art. Its streets were once trodden by knights, fishermen, looters, kings or merchants. Today, many of the homes of the traditional craftsmen are converted into galleries, workshops or small shops. The beauty of this city has served as inspiration for series like Game of Thrones, which has used it as a stage during its different seasons. 3. St. Petersburg, Russia. Russia is the home of the so-called Venice of the North thanks to its canals and quite 300 bridges, pampers the exuberant palaces inherited from the Tsar's empire. Architecture makes St. Petersburg one among the foremost beautiful cities ever. But there is much more to it. This former capital of Russia, whose streets and squares lived a number of the foremost bloody pages of its history, is an open-air museum that's hidden within the winter months by snow. The vivid colors of its cathedrals, palaces and buildings shine on their own. The Hermitage Museum houses a number of the simplest works of art within the world, also as offering visitors the prospect to go to a number of the halls of the Romanov dynasty. The most lively area of the town, where life is anything but static, is Nevsky, the universal channel of St. Petersburg that concentrates its most modern premises. 4. Prague, Czech Republic. This fairy tale place is one among the foremost beautiful cities in Europe, and not just for its architecture except for its special sensitivity to art. It has produced extraordinary musicians, writers and filmmakers liable for giving the town that bohemian touch that characterizes it. In this aspect, it's been compared on numerous occasions with Paris. Its medieval atmosphere is in a position to move us to a different time. Its old town, the Charles Bridge or its astronomical clock, are a number of the treasures with which the town delights the growing numbers of travelers who visit it per annum. 5. Cape Town, South Africa. An essential destination on your trip to South Africa, Cape Town is possibly one among the foremost multicultural cities in Africa, and has best integrated its European heritage with its African character. Its main attraction is the explosion of color of its picturesque houses. Like its surroundings, composed of almost virgin nature, we can find large hills and abundant vegetation, and also crystal clear water beaches with penguin colonies, or a seal island. Very on the brink of the town you'll also find a number of the simplest vineyards within the country. Its history still recalls that Cape Town was the birthplace of the many leaders of the anti-apartheid movement. In fact, during this city was where Mandela recited the speech that marked the start of a replacement era for the country. 6. Bergen, Norway. It is one among the foremost photographed cities in Norway and, of course, one among the foremost beautiful cities within the world. Its old quarter, Bergen, once occupied by the Hanseatic League, is that the postcard of colorful houses that we take from the town. It is located between 7 hills, variety of them known to be the place where their popular trolls live. It is also the gateway to the Norwegian fjords. So it isn't surprising that it's one of the essential stops to contemplate this wonder of nature. The Kyoto Museum exhibits a number of the simplest works of its most illustrious painter, Munch. We will find its better taste at the port, where the various street vendors sell a number of the gastronomic delights of the country. Salmon and dried cod are their hallmarks. 7. Istanbul, Turkey. Halfway between Europe and Asia, Istanbul is an example of coexistence between the traditional traditions with the Western modernity. It was called Byzantium first, and, later, Constantinople. Its history still beats within the oldest part of the town. There we discover a number of its most vital buildings, like the Blue Mosque, Hagia Sophia, the Cisterna Basilica, the Topkapi Palace or the Grand Bazaar, capable of taking us back in time. Its most cosmopolitan area is found on the opposite side of the Bosphorus, where culture and life are far more westernized. Istanbul has opened itself to the planet without losing its Turkish essence. It is also the sole city where, just by crossing a bridge, we will change continents. 8. San Francisco, United States. The city of the slopes is taken into account one among the foremost beautiful cities within the U.S. Its large garden areas, the parks where you'll disconnect from the large city and therefore the beaches that surround its coast make it one among the favorite places for travelers. The Golden Gate is one among the foremost recognized icons of America. So is Alamo Square, where you'll find the favored painted ladies. The international character of the cities gets its proper reflections in its neighborhoods. All of them multicultural and filled with life. It is also a city where entertainment, humanistic discipline, music and its great sort of museums prevail. 9. Venice, Italy. The city of the channels is formed from quite 100 small islands joined together by quite 400 bridges. Its main charm lies within the incontrovertible fact that it's a pedestrian city, since the sole traffic allowed is that of the boats that cross its channels. This is why Venice owns the title of the foremost romantic and special cities in Europe. Many artists have left their mark thereon. A Venetian school of painting actually exists, and samples of it are often seen in many museums worldwide. Its Renaissance architecture is one among its main hallmarks, as is that the Plaza de San Marcos. There you'll find a number of the Italian cafes and restaurants most frequented by tourists. It was also a crucial nucleus for Italian music. Not only Vivaldi was born here, but it also has one among the foremost famous opera coliseums within the world. 10. San Miguel de Allende, Mexico. Located within the state of Guanajuato, this Mexican city is one among the quietest within the center of the country, and also one among the foremost beautiful cities within the world. Its colonial past, visible in many of its buildings, coexists with its Mexican essence. This is evident within the sizable amount of canteens scattered around its streets, markets, gastronomy or in many of its museums. It also played a crucial role within the Mexican War of Independence, which is why the town is a component of Miguel Hidalgo's route today. San Miguel de Allende has an intense cultural and artistic life, also has large green and forested areas in its surroundings. A few minutes from the historic center is El Charco, a nature reserve that features a arboretum and a water system from the colonial era.